I've come out into my little front garden, which is really truly tiny, but it does have lavender under the dining room window and a big lavender bush there. It's both sides. There's my dining room window. We come round to the front door and there's the sitting room. I like the hardy geraniums here, it's a really big one. And there's 2 roses under the sitting room window. That one's called Tottering By Gently, and the little pink one is Queen Mother. I feed the birds here because I can see them from the window when I'm inside. I've come out to do a bit of deadheading of roses. They didn't really get much attention last year, and although it's a bit windy, it's quite warm here today. I just thought I'd show you that glorious colour combination. That is Campanula Pritchard's variety, which is the most heavenly shade of blue. And next to the yellow rose, which is Moliniere, it just fills my heart with joy. It's so beautiful. There's a little tiny rose in there that's just flowering for the first time. It's a really lovely shell pink. I'll move it over so you can have a look. Oh, there it is. That's called Queen of Sweden. I actually want to plant some new roses over the winter. This little area here, although it looks superficially pretty, it's a bit scrappy. And I'm feeling there's room for a new rose there. And I've got this one. So that might actually get put there over the autumn. In the meantime, everything is growing. There's a beautiful clematis up there. And my rose arbour, my goodness, it's full of flower. Can you see that clematis hanging like little bells? It's actually called Little Bass, and it just has profuse amounts of these little bells hanging all over the place. Look at them there, gorgeous colour. Anyway, I'm out to prune this rose. It got totally abandoned last year, and so this year I'm trying to catch up on all the pruning. Obviously the more I prune things, the better. Now this, I'm actually going to take the head off this one. It's nearly over. This is called Shropshire Lad. It is nearly over, but I want to get it before it drops because I'm actually drying the rose petals. And I'll show you that in a minute. I'm drying them in the greenhouse, so I'm going to put that down. And really I want to catch the heads before they get so far that they drop. But these are the things I didn't prune, so instead of just taking the head off once the whole thing's gone, I'm actually going to take that right the way down and take quite a big bit off so that the shoots will come up from lower down. And see that one as well, it's had a few flowers on, but now I want to take it right back into the plant. Otherwise it's just going to get out of hand. I've got an allium coming up here. That's going off. I think I don't want to dry those ones, they're a bit raggy now. I've got to try and catch it before then. So this one's a good one. There's no more buds on there. This is Olivia Rose Austin. I'm just going to take the flower heads off, put them to one side. I'll show you in a minute what happens with them. But I've got 1, 2, 3, there's about 5 roses just in this little bit. And they are gorgeous. And they've been flowering away. Maybe they liked being abandoned last year. Maybe they liked being unfussed over. Oh, forgot about this one here. This, oh, you can't see it. I'll move you around. This one here is Charles Darwin. And there's one down there ready to go. So I'll take that head. I've positioned you right in among the flowers. I'm pruning this down. I think I should have done this a few days ago. It definitely needs more stems taking off. This one's not so bad, it's still got 2 flowers on. But look at that one, that's over. There's no more on there. Oh, there is. There's one got caught. Let me see. Oh no, the petals have come off. Okay, so I can take that whole thing. I'll save those petals. I've brought the rose heads in here. I'm in my greenhouse and I've got this tray. And all I'm going to do is pull the petals off. They're almost falling anyway. That's why I wait until they're nearly done. But I don't really want them to fall on the ground. And I'm just going to pull all the petals. And then what I do is just spread them out in this tray. It's in the greenhouse. A day like today, they're going to dry really quickly. And they just dry up and go crispy like this. The ones I did yesterday. I try not to mix them up though. So they keep the colour really well. They keep the scent a little bit, but not much. If I was going to make a potpourri or something like that, I'd have to add some rose oil, but that's not really the reason I'm doing it. So I'm just going to keep them out like that. I'll put these ones into the basket I've already used. So here's my basket of ones I've been doing. And I've got a big basket. I've got quite a lot now. And this is just over the last, I don't know, couple of weeks I think, when I decided to do it. They look really pretty. I'll nearly have to empty that basket into something else. So anyway, I'm just going to put them over the whole tray, and then every couple of hours, on a day like today when it's really hot, I'll come and I'll just do this and just make sure that they don't stick together and they dry really evenly. And then I'm not wasting them, and they're not just falling on the ground and going rotten. And while I'm in here, look, my first tomato trusses are on. So I'll be feeding them now. Don't feed until the first trusses are set. There's a big one, look at that. So here's one of the lavender bottles, or lavender ones, that I've just made up. And really, it was because I remembered I've got a workshop in a couple of weeks for making these, and I'm not quite sure how much of the ribbon I need to use. So I did one, and I've cut about 3 feet or just under a metre of ribbon. So I'm going to do another one now and show you exactly how it gets made, because it'll help me to make sure that I'm going to buy enough ribbon, because I sort of know how many people might be at the workshop and I need to go with enough prepared things. And the lavender that I've just brought from the front garden, I'm going to use that. So I'm going to alter the camera around so that you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, I actually came out to do some hand sewing. I'm making a table runner for my dining table, but I'll do that later now. So I've got my lavender stems. Best to pick them fresh. You need an odd amount, so I'm going to use 11. I'm going to pull off all these little leaves, but I won't waste them. They can go among my rose petals that I'm drying, and it'll help that smell really nice. So I'm just going to pull the little extra, the bottom leaves off, and the little bits of buds, because I don't want them in the way. So I've pulled all the leaves off, and I'm just going to take a bit of my spare sewing embroidery thread, and I'm going to tie it really tightly right under the heads of the flowers, and just tie it in a double knot, just to keep them nice and tight together. And then just cut that off. I don't need that now. Like that. And then we just spread the lavender stems out like the spokes of a wheel. So just bend them all down, and as they bend down you can see which ones are overlapping and which ones aren't. So just try and get them really nice and spaced out in a nice way. It's a bit tricky at the beginning. It's not hard, but it's just tricky at the beginning to get them all sorted out. But I'm just going to make sure they're not crossed over now, that they're just lying just like the spokes on a bicycle wheel. Can you see that? And then I'm going to gather them all downwards over the top of the flowers. So it's like a little cage. And at this point we can just trim these stems a bit, because when they're really long they sort of get in the way. So I'm just going to trim them down with my secateurs. Now I've cut my length of ribbon. This is where I test to make sure that I'm using the right amount. And I don't know, a lot of you might know how to do this already. I learned how to do this from my grandma when I was quite a little girl. And mostly I do make one every year, or more than one. They go in the cupboard in among the bedding, then go in your underwear drawer, to, you know, like if you like the lavender scent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start the tail of one end of the ribbon right down in the middle, because I need that to tie off at the end. So I'm just going to leave that quite long there, but it comes out right at the top. And it is just weaving, so it's over one and then under one, all the way around. And don't worry about whether they look even or not, because at the beginning they definitely won't look even, but the further you get round, the more even it actually gets. So there I am, going over one and under one, and over and under, and over and under, and then I'll get round to the beginning again, and hopefully it'll be working out right that we are properly weaving. And it is. So there's the beginning there. So I'm going to go under that one. So this second row will actually start and lock everything down into the right place, and it's just a matter of keeping your ribbon nice and flat. You don't have to make sure that it's all really tight up to each other, because part of the charm of these is that you can see the lavender underneath. But just keep a hold of your little lavender bottle in your hand and it sort of helps keep it all together. And I'm just lifting up the ones that were underneath before to put them on top, and letting it go over the other ones. So there, I've done 2 rows now, and I'm just going to carry on going round, and this time I can start and even out all of the stems, so they are actually making a proper little cage, and it sort of just spirals down. You don't have to work too hard to do it. So it doesn't have to be particularly tight. You do want to see the lavender coming through, but you can probably see from the way I'm doing it now, it does get easier once you've got those first 2 rows done. And all of a sudden you can start and even out your stems. and you just keep picking the one up that needs to come over the top and putting it over the others, and you just wind your way down all of the lavender heads, and you'll find that it does just make a lovely oval shape as you're going round. You don't have to try too hard. You just keep turning it and holding it and turning it. I think I've made a mistake there. I have. I'm just going to carry on anyway. That's it, I'm back on track. There we go, over and under. And you'll find that as you get down to the bottom of the flowers, you will see that it naturally starts to get narrower. And it's spiralling in all the time. Just lifting them up and putting the ribbon underneath. And lifting them up and putting the ribbon underneath. And as it gets down to the bottom, you don't have to think too much about it really, because it just starts to draw in all by itself. And as you get to the bottom, you get to a point where you realise that it's sort of a natural end. And so you've got this one that's hanging out right from the beginning, and you take this one and you just wrap it a few times round as tight as you can, and then tie that in a knot to secure it. And you can just tie a double knot if you like, but I'm just going to make a little bow, or you can make a hanging loop for it to hang up somewhere. You can hang up, but usually I'm making them into usually like a double knot. And then I just like to clip the ends at a bit of an angle, like that. And then you can always cut the ends of the lavenders down as well, so we'll just cut them a little bit down with the secateurs. Do it with me. Okay, and there you have it. So it's nice to go in your underwear drawer or hang in your wardrobe among your clothes. If you'd wanted to leave the ribbon longer, you could put it round the clothes hanger. There's one with a bow on. They smell really nice. So there's two I've done now. So now I know that actually 3 feet or about 90 centimetres of ribbon is about right for doing one lavender wand. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Lots of you might know that already, but I was sitting here doing it anyway, so there you go. Back to my sewing now. So I've only recently discovered this stuff, which is Hexie foam. It's quite thin, but it's got a bit of a thickness to it, like a batting. You cut a hexagon that's bigger than the Hexie foam, and you cut a middle that's just exactly right. But I'm using my old linens, embroidered linens that I've already cut for other things, and I'm showcasing those on the middles. And then you double fold down like that, all the way round onto the front, see, and hem stitch it all the way round. And then what I really like about doing this way, the Hexies this way, is that once you've gone all the way round, if you've actually got thread on your needle still, you can immediately add it onto your piece of work, which is what I'm doing here. And so I just put them right sides together and just hem again, a little few stitches on each side, and I'm making about 18 to 20 stitches along there, tiny little stitches, so that when it's opened up you can't even see them from the right side, and they're not very visible from the back either. And so I'm making a table runner for my dining table, and I'm really loving the fact that I'm using up all my bits, so it's a good scrap thing, but the pieces of embroidery that were left over from doing the bunting, bits and pieces, they've gone in there too, and so it showcases them really nicely. But then when you turn it over on the back, it just looks like a normal piece of Hexie quilting or Hexie patchwork, which is also nice. So that's what I'm sitting stitching now. I'm going to be carrying on. I hope you're having a nice afternoon yourselves. I've done my rose pruning and decided on tea tonight, and I'm just going to carry on stitching away, hemming around these hexagons, because I'd quite like to get this finished, although it has been ongoing for a little while now. Every time I'm in between something else I do a little few more, and I'm just doing it with normal sewing thread in a beige, so something that'll just go with everything really, it just disappears into the background. The only time it really shows up is if there's a lot of white, but I'm actually not that bothered about that. It's all part and parcel of it being handmade, and I'm not bothered enough to switch it out for a white thread just for one bit. So I use the beige or a grey for all of like things where I just want that to go in. So you can see I've done one row there, and now I'm just going to finger press the next bit in, and it makes a lovely corner there. Makes a lovely corner, and I'll just slip my needle into that to hold it down, and then like that. That's that corner held down, and then just carry on working around. And then when I sew it onto my runner, I'm not actually worried. When I sew it onto my runner, I actually don't like the two of the same things to be next to each other. So because I pick the things up random out of my box, when I come to sew them onto the runner, I sort of pick and choose where it's going to go, so that I have a nice spread of both embroidery and the background colours, and I like it to look scrappy. Sometimes looking scrappy takes more work. You have to plan it out a little bit to keep that scrappiness going, or else people tend to end up doing patterns. I think it's just our human brain tends to like to find patterns, and so if you don't concentrate on not doing a pattern emerges sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to I hope you have a nice weekend. This is the beginning of the weekend, nearly Friday afternoon, and enjoy whatever you're doing.